Before I start this video, please keep in mind that I am talking about H1Z1 as strictly a battle royale game, not as the studio first intended the game to be. The original concept of the game held Just Survive and King of the Kill together in one game under the H1Z1 name, but now the game has been split into two separate games, one being called Just Survive, which is basically a zombie survival game, and then there's H1Z1, which is basically taking the idea of King of the Kill. I'm not going to be talking about Just Survive at all in this video. As far as I see it at this point, that is a completely separate game that is in its own completely different course, as H1Z1 has only become Battle Royale. But H1Z1 at one time was easily the most popular Battle Royale game, amassing millions of PC players and making a huge name for itself. However, even with a decently successful PS4 free-to-play launch that has seen the game surpass 7 million players, it's pretty much safe to say that other games like Fortnite and PUBG have put the final nail in the coffin. You may scratch your head ready to leave a harsh comment about my idiocy screaming, 7 million isn't a good enough launch? Well, that's a decent number for a game to just go and put up in a beta, but the amount of people still playing is probably nowhere near that. It also had 200,000 concurrent players at launch, which is also pretty good. The game is still alive and kicking pretty well on PS4, but honestly, how long is that going to last? First, let's talk about PC, where fans have been playing H1Z1 Battle Royale for years now. The game is pretty much dead on PC. I mean, look at this. It literally only got a few thousand people playing it even at the peak hours. Then compare it to PUBG, and yeah, the green line is H1Z1 with about 5 to 7,000 concurrent players compared to the hundreds of thousands of players that PUBG is seeing, and that's not even the top Battle Royale game, as we all know. Fan reviews of H1Z1 on PC are also not great, considering that just over 50%, well to be exact 56% of user reviews for the game on Steam give it a favorable review. Recently, more and more of these reviews have gone negative, as only 37% of these reviews in the last 30 days for the game were positive. I'm pretty sure that we're eventually going to see H1Z1 die on PS4 too, but for now it's about the last shot that the game really had to compete. And there is a single day that really killed this game, especially on PC. We'll talk about the PS4 version really quick, and the reason that I think this game is so successful on PS4 right now is if we look at the market. The PS4 market isn't entirely oversaturated with Battle Royale games, at least not to the extent that PC is. On PS4, the only real options you have right now are H1Z1 free-to-play, which is plastered all over the PlayStation Store, and Fortnite, which is the current juggernaut of the industry that has complete control over basically all of gaming right now. Your options are these two free-to-play games, and only one of them is a realistic-themed battle royale game, which does seem to matter to a lot of people. So there's also a rumor going around that at E3, PUBG will be revealed for the PS4 and a release date will come, which will basically give H1Z1 a much better competitor directly to it. On top of that, the market is going to become much more competitive for battle royale later in the year with Call of Duty Blackout. I mean, say what you want, but Call of Duty is a top-selling game every year, even at the low points, and adding Battle Royale to the upcoming October title Black Ops 4 is going to make the scene a little bit harder to compete in. Plus, I mean, once fans of H1Z1 on PS4 get sick and tired of it and move on to the other games coming out soon, it's going to pretty much mark the end. Now, I've played it on PS4, I actually was one of the people who played it right as it launched with a few of my friends, and I haven't played it since, I will be honest, but it was just so horrible. I mean, not only was the gameplay completely horrible, the map's not very good, there were severe frame rate issues, which is something that console is supposed to have over PC. I mean, I've never played an early access or beta game on PS4 with these kinds of frame rate issues. On top of that, there's honestly just not much else that puts it there for me that makes me say, hey, I want to play H1Z1 over Fortnite or over anything else, really. And I feel like a lot of my friends have went the same way. I don't think I know anyone who consistently plays it anymore, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, in my opinion, the game just launched entirely unfinished on PS4. Even if it was a beta, even if it is an early access, there is no excuse for some of these issues in any game regardless. I mean, if the game isn't literally like a month into development, there is no reason that some of these issues should be happening. I mean, it was just the buggiest, glitchiest, worst looking, worst performing game I've ever played on PlayStation 4. But I mean, there is a day that H1Z1 died, and this day was the day that they made a major move to try and compete with games like Fortnite, going free to play. Now, I know there's a bunch of H1Z1 former fans who are completely upset that I haven't mentioned the combat update yet, and I want to talk about that really quickly. The combat update came a while back, actually, and it was an update that basically completely reworked how the game worked. All the guns had different sounds and mechanics, their recoil patterns were different. Basically, the entire game and the combat of the game was completely overhauled, and most of the changes were pretty negatively received by the community, and only recently were these changes finally fixed and reverted and made better, which means that for months, there was basically this update that completely ruined the combat of the game and made a bunch of people quit, which obviously anyone should know is not a good thing. But I mean, leading up to this free-to-play move, the developers were constantly reworking gun mechanics and elements of the game that fans had already become accustomed to over time, which, like I said, angered fans to begin with, and it led to a lot of players leaving the game behind. But going free-to-play in early 2018 killed the game for good. This day, March 8th, 2018, basically marks the end of H1Z1. Before this, players had to pay to buy the game, and this is when the game was truly decent. But Daybreak backstabbed the entire community, and ever since the game went free to play, the game has completely worsened. A week after the game comes out of early release, they decide to make it free to play, which in that week after it finally released, I mean, plenty of people bought the game full price, and basically watched as they make the game free a week later, which is basically virtually taking your money and lighting it on fire in your face. Cheaters were already an issue, but opening the game with terrible anti-cheat up to literally everyone basically makes it 10 times worse. All you got for buying the game before was an appreciation pack of cosmetics that the players couldn't really do anything with. They weren't worth anything, or they weren't tradable on the Steam market, which obviously cosmetics in H1Z1 had a massive market before, and not being able to sell these cosmetics or use them on the market was basically spitting in the faces of people who had taken advantage of the market before. It just seems like the developers put more effort into the cosmetics and fueling their money machine than actually making the game good for release, and as a result of their negligence towards the game and the community around it, the game saw a noticeable drop-off in players just after March 10th of 2018. This is not a coincidence. In just a few short days, the player counts for the game had halved from 41,000 players on March 9th to 20,000 on March 23rd. And since then has easily slid its way down into the low thousands. In May of 2018, the game saw just over 5,000 players on average compared to nearly 70,000 players on average in May of 2017. That means that in just a year, the average player counts on PC are now 1/14 of what they were in just a year prior. The peak player count in the last 30 days was around 11,000, which is a significant drop-off from the 124,000 that it saw max in May of 2017. Overall, there are many factors of why going free to play basically kills this game. Of course, this was somewhat necessary to compete with Fortnite, but in the end, you can never compete by backstabbing your customers, focusing on cosmetics instead of good gameplay, releasing a piss-poor combat update that entirely shutters the core mechanics of the game and destroys the way that players play and enjoy the game. Also ignoring the widespread issues of cheaters and then trying to make up for it. I mean, March 8th, 2018 was the day that H1Z1 died, and while it remains alive on PS4, I don't see it happening for much longer. They're bound to make the same mistakes that they did with the PC version, and even then, there's better competition coming in the following months that are going to take away from this game. PUBG is going through sort of a dying phase at the moment too, but it has a few different approaches that it can take to prolong itself. H1Z1 does not have that. The game destroyed all hopes of itself ever making this comeback, and once another realistic battle royale game like PUBG comes to PlayStation and everyone realizes that it's way better than H1Z1, this game will be just like the PC version is already. In the end, games like Fortnite can focus on cosmetics because the game is already on solid ground. The changes that they make to the game market themselves through viral videos, the game is already solid, and it has a community that is supportive of the developers because the developers have been supportive to the community. In the end, Daybreak just doesn't really seem to care. Epic Games show that they love Fortnite by constantly releasing new content into the game, which is sometimes hit or miss, and by making constructive changes to the game and consistently fixing errors and bugs. H1Z1 seems more like an ATM to Daybreak than anything, and while you can easily say that Fortnite is Epic Games' ATM, I'd much rather give my money to Epic than Daybreak, because Fortnite is a decent game. Going free to play wasn't going to put trust back into the community either, especially when you finally released the full game a week earlier with a price tag, and in the end, Daybreak did it all to themselves. H1Z1 should serve as an example of what you shouldn't do to your game. I mean, it quite literally used to be the top dog in Battle Royale games. They even currently market the game on Steam as the game that started it all. While I disagree that this game started Battle Royale, shout out to Minecraft Hunger Games, it definitely helped to popularize it, but once it did that, it basically handed the crown over to other Battle Royale games. And I have no hope that the game will make a comeback. I mean, they've already done the community too dirty, they've allowed the game to sink so low that it barely has a few thousand players, and they're not going to compete against Fortnite and PUBG anytime soon. Daybreak isn't worried about making a great game anymore. They've been too worried about what cosmetics and crates they can add to the game so they can make the game the most profitable machine possible. You can't make profits on a free-to-play game if nobody is playing it to begin with. I mean, I remember a time in which my friends pressured me legitimately to get a PC, that way I could play King of the Kill with them because it was the most fun that they'd had in a long time. And now I don't remember a single person who plays this game besides maybe one or two on PS4, and even then most of my friends have moved on already from there as well. Once PS4 fans realize that this game is not what it used to be in the heydays, and they decide that competition to the game is way better even if they have to pay for it, this game will finally be as dead as it gets. I mean, there isn't anywhere else for it to go, and H1Z1 has already dug its grave. Thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications for all my newest content and live streams coming up. I'm going back to uploads on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thousands of you turned up and voted on the poll I released last night, and overwhelmingly decided that this was also in the best interests of the channel, so obviously that's the best course of action to take, because in the end it's you guys who watch my videos, not me. That's starting immediately with this video, by the way. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter for memes, thoughts, and updates. Check out www.optimusstudios.org. Join the Discord linked below to talk to me and other fans, and until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, not playing H1Z1, and signing out.